Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Higher Line podcast. Got a cool friend with you here today. Normally she beats me up. She's dressed up nice today. Normally she's in like martial arts clothes or gym clothes. This is our friend Kasia.
Hello.
I wanted Kasia to come in. You are an immigrant from Poland. You've been here in the States for years and years.
19 years.
Yeah. You've got cool stories, and I think for many of our American listeners, a lot of the stuff that you have lived is good to be reminded of. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and we'll bounce around a little bit, but who are you?
Well, my name is Kasia Mazny. My full name is Katarzyna.
Katarzyna?
Katarzyna.
Wait, so I've been calling you the wrong name all these years?
I go by Kasia. It's
Katarzyna.
It's so Katarzyna it's like Catherine.
Okay.
Kasia is like Katie.
Okay.
So I go by Kasia. All my life I've been Kasia. Actually, Katarzyna is my legal name, so I usually use it just for legal purposes. Nobody calls me that, but that's my given name. I've been in the United States for 19 years, and to get started and get you into my story, we'll gotta go back in time. So like, picture me, second year of student in college, right?
Here or in
Poland?
Poland, okay.
Poland. 20 years old, second year of college, having a job, still living with my parents, long-time boyfriend, having, pretty much a good life.
Just partying, doing college
No,
stuff.
not really. That was all in high school. By the time I was in college, I was a good girl. Everything was out of my system.
Okay.
So I actually got my visa, my 10-year visa, first when I was 18 years old. My godfather was living in the States at that time. He was my grandpa's brother, and he needed somebody to watch his grandson. So
was this up here in Chicagoland?
It was in south side, so it was by the Midway Airport.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, I can take you for the summer if you're gonna watch my grandson. I'm like, okay. So because of that invitation, I got a visa for 10 years. So I came here for the summer, spent 2 months, and he let me see Chicago, and pretty much that's it. We'll like do one of those trips, and I went back to Poland. I had my 18th year birthday, and I finished high school, and then 2 years went by. I went to college. I've always had that drive since that my first trip. I had that drive that I want to be here, and that probably comes with me growing up watching all American movies, and America's so awesome, and everything is great and bigger and just amazing.
At that time, that's how it felt.
That's how it felt because we grew up on watching all the same movies that you guys watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was always very intrigued and kind of driven to visit. So when I had an opportunity, when I was second year in college, I had an opportunity to come and do it again, but this time to come and visit with my mom's best friend. And basically the purpose for me was to come for 2 months only and to make some money and then go back to Poland, obviously finish college and get some extra money to get my driver's license in Poland, and I wanted to be an aerobic instructor. So pay money for that extra class so I can get a job doing that. So that was a pretty good plan. Just come in for a few months, make money, come back to Poland, and just go on with your life.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's best friend, she was here a few weeks longer than I was supposed to come, and then she was staying with her cousin. My parents, I grew up in the middle class family. It was kind of up and down. Sometimes it was more harsh. Sometimes it was pretty comfortable. And it was more also like, like you're on a border of being in a good neighborhood versus in a bad neighborhood. So I grew up in both.
Okay.
Depends which turn you took. You could end up in a bad neighborhood that is not far from your house, or you could end up in a city when things were fine. And when I made my plans to come here for the summer, and my parents had to put some money together to get me the plane ticket, because at that time, we're talking 19 years ago, the plane ticket was $600. 19 years ago, $600 was a lot of money.
Yeah, it's still a lot of money, but yeah, it's a lot of bread.
Yes, and from Polish perspective, when you make money in Poland, that was a lot to come up with. But my parents were able to lend me the money so I could come. So they did. They borrowed the money, they got me the plane tickets, and I only had like $300 with me to spend. Right.
And how long were you supposed to be here?
I was supposed to be here June, 3 months.
With $300?
Yes.
But you're staying with family?
I was staying with my mom's best friend.
Okay.
And we were supposed to get a job, and yes, it was supposed to be to make money and go back. So that $300 was supposed to get me for a few days and maybe a week, and that's it. So the plan was pretty good, right? Very, very loose. Everything was supposed to be provided here on the receiving end when I was coming. I came, I got off the plane. My mom's best friend picked me up from the airport with her cousin that she was staying with. We got in the car, and in the car, the first thing she says, yeah, about that, just so you know, we don't really have a job yet. We'll actually have to look for a job. And also, I don't really have an apartment for us yet. So we will stay with my cousin for a while. I'm like, okay, I'm in America. I mean, what is this? It's not a problem, right? We'll make it work. So I was still, in heaven. I was so happy just to be here. So those first few days staying at the cousin's house, it was kind of like, okay, what now? What do we do, right? And that comes in the money, the $300 that I had, that's all I had. And that was supposed to be somehow for the deposit for the apartment and food and everything. So we needed to hold on to that money. And I think that's where the donut story comes in that you're familiar with, because it was right after the beginning, within the first week that we were here. We took a walk. So her cousin's house was in Roselle. We walked to the Country Donuts, and I don't know if it's still called that. I think before it was Country Donuts, now it's Cunty Donuts in Roselle.
Cunty Donuts. Delicious.
County Donuts?
County.
Okay. Not Cunty.
Okay.
County Donut. Well, I knew you were going to catch something. So we walked to that donut shop, and she only had a few bucks on her, and my money was frozen at that time. And that's what we did. We didn't want to spend money because that's all we had. So we purchased one donut. We decided on a donut. We got a little table in a corner of the donut shop, and we just sat there. We split that donut on a little napkin, and we just sit there and we talked. And we were just like looking around, and I don't know what was going through her head. I can only, speak for myself. But I remember looking around and just kind of be like, oh, this is so awesome. People can come here every morning and get their coffee and get their donuts. And this is, like they do it like every day on the way to work if they want to. And they just sit there. And like, I really wanted just to be free of just doing that, because that was the norm.
In Poland, you couldn't go get coffee and donuts?
You could do that, but that was not the smartest thing to do. You would not do that every day. You would do that
because it was wasteful?
It was wasteful.
Okay.
And again, that's 19 years ago. Probably by now the culture is different. Mm-hmm. The access to things is different. But there was no donut shop where I grew up. I would have to go to the city. Then I would have to take a tram.
So for you to just be able to walk out of a house and there's this place that sells donuts and coffee?
No, I would have to go downtown.
It was a thing.
Yeah. And it was not like you would meet your friends to get donuts, but it's not something like you do because you're on the way to work. No, you make your coffee at home. You make your tea at home. You make your sandwich at home.
So for you, it was like it was cool to have access to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I was just thinking, I'm like, oh, that's so awesome that people are able to do that just because they want to. And it was at that time, were we embarrassed that, two ladies were sitting in the corner of the donut shop eating one donut split in half, maybe a little bit, right? But it was just temporary.
Sure.
And, it just it made me think about it a few months ago. I'm like, okay, that was a pretty epic moment, because
go ahead.
Where we are right now, how things have changed, those little things that I wanted at the time, just being able to go to the donut shop and get
buy a 50-cent donut.
Yeah, or buy 20 donuts, right? I can do it now.
You, at the time, I remember one of the things you had said, this is one of the things that when she told this story a couple months ago that caught my attention. You thought, one day I'd like to be able to come here
Yep.
and just buy whatever I want up
Yep.
behind the glass.
Yep.
Of course, you're into fitness, so you're not just pounding donuts
I don't
every
even
day.
like donuts that much anymore.
No.
So that donut is like really more of a symbol at this point.
Sure.
But yeah, that was at that time. I was like, yeah, I want all the donuts in the world. I want to be able to have them.
Sure.
So that was a moment that not really significant became really significant now as I reflect back. So with me getting there within the first week, we had to get a job. And in Poland, I studied English as a second language, but it was more of a British English. And
Hello.
yeah, the words are a little different. And I remember my mom's friend's cousin that we're staying at, he basically gave us a newspaper. And he's like, okay, here you got to find a job. Here you got to find an apartment. You guys cannot stay with me forever. And till today, I remember circling, in the newspaper. And my mom's friend didn't speak any English whatsoever. So it was me with my broken British English trying to communicate and go somewhere with that. So I remember, hi, this is Kate. I want to rent in the flat, an apartment. It was just like super awkward, super weird. And by the way, I was trying to be Kate for a while because I thought that people cannot pronounce my name. So for probably about 6 months, I was telling everybody my name was Kate because I wanted to make it easy for everyone, right? Instead of Kasia. And then I met a lot of people with a lot of cool names. I'm like, you know what? My name is not that hard.
No.
I can be who I am.
Yeah, right.
So it was a learning curve on that as well.
Yeah.
Just to, just be who you are. This is your name. Go with it. Either people get it or they don't get it.
So what happened?
So we did end up getting a job eventually with one of the Polish cleaning services, right?
Classic.
Very classic. But so the way it worked, like we didn't have a car, we didn't have an apartment, right? We didn't have anything. So the way it works, they pick you up in the morning and they drive you when they need to drive you, the cleaning service, you do your job, and at the end of the day, they bring you home. So we got a job with one of the services, and that's how I started. And actually, before I was able to do that, I needed to learn how to do it professionally. Because, I'm a college student, living in my parents' house. I don't really know how to clean professionally.
Sure.
So that was another thing. I'm like, okay, I thought I know how to clean, but no. Not
production style.
Not that style. With the apartment, there was a little issue with getting the apartment. So
Who's renting apartments for just 3 months?
Well, that friend was supposed to stay here for way longer than that. I was just visiting for 3 months.
Okay.
So she was supposed to get an apartment for herself and then have a roommate, me, and then another roommate. The plan was to get an apartment with 2 other, because she couldn't get an apartment just for us. We found 2 more guys that were working for their cousin who had a construction company, figured it out. One of his workers who were also looking for apartments. So there was 4 of us that, okay, we can be roommates.
Sounds like a sitcom.
Right. We can totally, right? We can find something. So the cousin, I'm going to say cousin, right? I don't want to use names. So the cousin said, okay, no problem. You guys find an apartment. I'm going to co-sign for you because you need a deposit and you need somebody who lives in this country to actually vouch that, they're renting their apartment back in the day with somebody with credit.
Sure.
So we're like, okay, we found the apartment. He put a deposit in, lent us money for the deposit. We all chipped in. That was my $300. Boom. Okay. My part of it. And what was happening, the cousin's wife was actually on vacation in Poland. So she was not there from the moment I got there at all. She was gone for like a month. So she was not aware that her husband is making those decisions without her.
With a bunch of chicks staying in his house.
Yes, and then that he's co-signing an apartment lease for pretty much her cousin and bunch of strangers, right? So the moment she found out, she put a hard stop on it, which I don't blame a woman, right?
Sure.
That's the right thing to do. So what happened? We did lost the deposit.
Lost it?
Yes, because it was after already everything was signed. So he was...
So there goes your $300.
And I owed him money for the deposit. So because he lent us money to put the deposit plus first month rent. You get it?
Yeah.
So I actually ended up $300 behind. So now I owed him money. I still didn't have an apartment. The rental place didn't want to give us any money back. And who's going to fight him? We don't know any better. I mean, we barely speak English, right? So it was just a loss. We found another friend. My friends made another friend, and he was able to get us an apartment. So we ended up getting an apartment in Roselle, just like the initial plan was, 4 people living together, 2 guys, 2 girls. And we were working in a cleaning service. So then we got the apartment, and that was it. We didn't have furniture. We didn't have utensils. We didn't have anything.
You at least had a place to wash yourself. You're sleeping on the carpet.
And I had my bag of clothes that I came for 3 months, right? And let me tell you something. The clothes that I brought from Poland, not really like to the lifestyle that I was gonna live here, because in Poland, people, there's this thing people say is like Polish people prefer to dress than eat, because they like to dress well. So I brought like high heel shoes.
So you're cleaning people's house, high heels and...
No, but like for like everyday wear, yeah, I didn't have a lot of choices.
You didn't have sneakers and...
No, not really. So, and then everything was like nice tops and, like nice shorts and like, what the hell I was thinking, like this is not what it's supposed to be.
I bet you have some good stories from time cleaning. I worked in people's houses for years. So
I do. Yeah, I'll tell you some. But let me tell you about the apartment. So we didn't have any furniture. And we were just beginning to form any social relationship with people.
Carpenter guys couldn't start building beds and...
No, but somebody donated stuff. One of a friends of a friend of a friend. It's like Polish people network. There's this thing that everybody knows each other. Well, in that case, that was the truth, right? So people heard, they need help. We ended up getting some furniture and some donations for like plates and utensils and stuff from friends. So we got one twin-size bed to share between my girlfriend and myself.
You guys take turns, one night you sleep on it?
No, we actually split the bed.
So you guys are just back to back laying in this little bed?
She took the bottom of the mattress, like the actual box.
Okay.
And she gave me the mattress.
Wow.
Because she felt like she brought me there and she was my mom's best friend. She always had that motherly... thing that she somehow has to take care of me. So she's like, I'll sleep on the crappy bed, you take the mattress. And obviously she put like some blankets on it and it was passable.
Yeah.
But that was it. So we had that split bed for a while. And no matter what we found, there was a local thrift store, we would always like make it like, it looks like a real house, She would paint, so she would like make a picture or something. So we tried to make it home, but the resources were very limited. And then the job itself, right? So I was working a cleaning service and then I was making $230 a week. Sometimes on a good week, sometimes it was less, because if the house is canceled, then you wouldn't get paid. It was all cash. And my budget for food was pretty much about $20 a week, because we had to pay rent. And at some point we all got one cell phone that all 4 of us shared. We had to pay electricity. So there was a local store that we went to, and I remember my shopping list was Wonder Bread, pack of eggs, pack of hot dogs, and sometimes if I felt like, it was an orange juice or something. So then what do you do if that's all you got? And that's the cleaning part comes in, right? Because a lot of customers, they're like, help yourself to the fridge. All right, there's my food for the day, right? That's what it is. So, and then for the customers, it depends. Some of them were like regular middle-class families. Some of them were mansions, right? And the people, you build the relationship. If you clean their houses, you know them, right? You trust them, they trust you. And then a lot of them were like, here you go, we got you some donuts again. And here you go, we have, we ordered this, you want some. So a lot of times it was, we were able to eat on the job. And that helped a lot for a while too. But yeah, with the cleaning, with the stories, So there were some houses that were rough houses.
What do you mean?
Like rough cleaning houses, to the point that, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, I just want to get out of here. Like, it was just so messy and so dirty that I only once had a situation that was like, I was like literally gagging, but you know what, you got to do what you got to do. And I think it builds character too at this point.
Sure.
And then there were some houses that there were just freaking mansions, like amazing. And I'm talking about, you know, South Barrington area, you know, like I was in a lot of those houses and they were amazing. And then I was thinking, you know, how do you live here? How you need 7 bedrooms or 13 bedrooms with bathrooms? That's an amazing thing.
Sure.
There was a one lady, and I had this amazing connection with her, and she's one of my greatest memories from that cleaning houses period. Her house was gorgeous, and she was, at first when we started working for her, she needed her house cleaned every week. She was the only person in that house. And I think it was 13 bedrooms from what I remember, 3 levels.
She just wanted it mint, no dust.
There was nothing to clean, to be honest, because there was no usage of the house, right? She was the only person in this house. But anyways, every week she would have us come in. It was 2 girls on that job, and it took us all day, 7 hours to clean that house, that mansion.
You're just scrubbing what's already scrubbed.
We would still do everything.
Mm-hmm.
We would still do everything. And we had to, our service, cleaning service, the requirements that we had to clean the floors on our knees. So there was a lot of, you know, surface washing the floors on your knees for that area. But it was awesome about that lady, and I still remember her really well. She was very, kind of cold at first, right? And the girls that were there before, they're like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just like, I hate going to that house. Whoever goes to that house, you know, it's just like, feel sorry for you. I never thought that way, and I was trying, maybe because I actually could speak a little English, I actually had a conversation with her, and I asked her, what do you need? Let us know if there's anything else. I built that relationship with her, and one day I just asked her if we can have a little music when we clean, because we were there for 7 hours, right? And no, I asked her if we can play like, I don't know, kind of how
Walkman or something.
Yeah, I don't even know how we were playing music. We didn't have like a phone.
Yeah.
And she says, okay. And then she actually turned on like the intercom music.
So now you're jamming.
And the music was always the same playlist. And we were there. And by the time, we knew exactly where we were supposed to be on which song.
Wow.
And the next time, every time we came in, she right away put the music on. And then by the time we got in the basement, it was more like a techno music. So we started with like opera music, like, you know, super like Italian. She was Italian, so it was a lot of like Italian, you know, Andrea Bocelli and stuff like that. I mean, it was awesome. So that's how we kind of monitor our work, that we're on time. And sometimes if we speed it up a little bit, we knew that we can have more time in the basement. And she was totally cool with that. That was another thing. I'm like, in the basement, she had like a giant bowling room. And there was a bar, and there was like other things in the basement where we're done. There was like a techno music playing, and every now and then we would get like a little drink, you know, like Malibu and stuff like that. And she was totally cool with us. At Christmas, she gave us like, you know, gifts. When their daughters moved out, she donated a bunch of clothes for us.
How long did you clean?
Houses for about 8 months.
Okay, so 3 months turned into longer.
Oh yes, and I'm sorry. There's so many things going on. I want to stay focused.
I mean, that's what we're having. No, you don't need to stay focused.
No,
you're fine.
No.
So 8 months. I've done plenty of that. We had a family friend when I was 15, 16 that did more buildings, but I'd go before school at like 4 a.m. and mop floors and empty trash cans and.
But yeah, you know, thank you for actually redirecting me, because there's a good point with that. I was supposed to come back September 22nd. Mm-hmm. With the issue with the apartment, me losing money at first and not being able to make money making $230.
You didn't have a return flight.
I didn't have I did have a purchase return flight.
Okay.
That was already purchased, but I didn't have money to pay my debt to that cousin, first of all, right away. And I didn't have enough money to pay my parents back for the plane ticket.
So you needed to stick around.
So I needed more time.
Was there more opportunities here to earn cash? You couldn't just go home and get a job?
I did have a job in Poland when I was a student, and it was enough just for a student to have, but not enough to support yourself. But dollars in conversion to Polish money, yes, was better to stay here, make dollars, and then go back.
Okay.
So that was the goal. So I was defeated at first and too proud to go back. I didn't want to go back and not being able to, pay my parents, and then eventually...
And you still had to pay the guy that...
And I had to pay the guy, and...
That story's shitty. That guy put you guys in that pickle.
And
he owed you.
And
because you didn't know any better.
No, and he was a little bit intimidating, and then also those two guys worked for him, so they wouldn't have a job. It was all kind of sensitive in a way that, okay, well, you guys owe me because you're going to end up on the street without us, and then they wouldn't have a job. So we just kind of...
Shitty.
Yeah. But with me staying here longer, I needed more time to make more money just so it makes sense. So there's reason for all of that, right? So I was able when you come, and I don't know if they still do it, but back then when you come to the States, they give you permission to stay for 6 months. So even though my tickets was 3 months, I could just stay till December. So I remember I called my parents. I'm like, hey, I'm going to skip semester in college. I'm going to stay here longer. I should be back by Christmas. Okay. Well, that didn't go well either because it just, I couldn't get that money. It was not enough money. And because you needed to live, you had to pay for just cost of living. And then the winter came and I didn't have any winter clothes. So I needed to dress myself. I needed to go to the thrift store and buy myself some winter clothes because all I came with was summer dresses. And but in the meantime, I was trying to be productive. There was this class that they offered. It was English as a second language at one of the high schools. So we all four of us, and my girlfriend already got a car somehow. I don't even know how she did that, but we drove 4 times a week to that class and just learned English.
That's cool.
That was, and we all were on a different level, but unfortunately it's only to like a 3rd level, and after that you actually have to go to college and pay for it. So I did that, and that helped me a lot.
This got you guys at least understanding more of the language. So at night, were you guys like making stone soup together, sitting, making dinner?
We were drinking a lot.
Drinking? Okay.
It was drinking a lot. And
so that cost money. What were you drinking, vodka?
Yeah, strawberry vodka in a plastic bottle.
Oh, so just as cheap as it comes.
As cheap as it comes with RC Coke.
Wait a second. Strawberry vodka, which I've never even heard of, with RC?
Yes.
That sounds like a stomach ache. Dang.
It was dark times, and then also you live with people who technically you don't know them that well, right? And you kind of build that relationship with them, and then, okay, now you're living together, and now you're going to spend holidays together because none of you have family.
Sure.
And now you're going to be spending every day together, and you're going to have household chores, and it's just... And then the boys like to drink. And then because the boys were drinking, like, okay, what is there out there to do? We don't have money to do anything else. So that was a lot of that. But thankfully, I realized right away that this is not where I want to be, and this is not going to go anywhere, because it's just a matter of like numbing.
Yeah, and the drinking or the whole situation?
The whole situation.
Yeah.
The whole situation.
There's no, that situation never would change.
No.
Yeah.
And
you can only
it was,
clean so many houses in a day.
It was scaring me. Because the fact that, okay, I left my life, or I'm here for a certain time for that, I wasn't okay with that. But anyway, so ended, months went by, and I met a boyfriend at a time, and again from Polish community, and then we decided to move in together. So that was like my opportunity to leave the apartment, leave that, and then start building something of my own. And also at that time, we found out that I had a relative in the States, and he was able to sign for me sponsorship for student visa. And what it does, we found a school that was accredited to honor, so basically you can apply for student visa, because other than that, if you go to regular college, the fees are like 3 times more than for U.S. citizens or for residents, even here, like locally. So there was a school that was pretty much for immigrants. It had the credentials and everything. So they, through that school, you could get student visa and you could actually be an international student. The fees were very manageable. And at that time I was still working I just stopped working at the cleaning service, and my next move to up my career was at the Polish deli store. So I was super happy.
Love a good Polish deli.
Oh, I loved it. It was such a, like, there was like, so when you're in one spot, you're already eyeing your other spot, right? And you're like, okay, I'm cleaning houses, I'm cleaning factories, I'm cleaning offices. They're at the store, they're talking to people, they're smiling, they're cutting deli, I'm like, this is awesome. They go home, they're not dirty, they're not, overworked. I'm like,
Plenty of snacks,
right? So I got a job at the Polish store.
Where was that? What part of town?
That was still in Roselle.
Okay.
And actually, that store, they expanded, and it's like a huge store right now. But at that time, it was a very, very tiny store right in Roselle, across the street from Jewel.
I've probably been in it.
Probably. So with me working in the Polish store, I was able to start my school, and that school was strictly for English. But that relative signed my student visa, and I was able to be here legally for as long as I remained in that school.
Okay.
So that way, I never lost my legal status in America, because I went from a tourist to student visa right away. And then I was on student visa for like 2.5 years being in that school. And the school was pretty doable because it was only like three times a week, a couple of hours. So you could make it work with the work schedule.
Were your parents upset?
No, I'm actually very proud of my parents. I'm very grateful, because I know it was hurtful for them at first, but they've always supported me from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And I actually had this epiphany not that long time ago, that when I left 19 years ago, my parents were my age. And if you think about it that way, that's kind of insane. I mean, I always thought my parents were older, right? Because
I don't want to say that you're kind of old, but...
Well, oh, really? How old are you?
I'm older than you.
Exactly.
No, I know exactly. My kids are as old as I was when they were born now, so yeah.
So you get it. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Seriously? So I'm like, it's kind of like they let me go on the other side of the world and just figure it out. I will always be very grateful for them, because obviously they would be like, oh, come, and they knew how horrible it was.
Would you let your kids do it now?
I think I would.
Yeah?
I think I would, because of...
Or maybe not let is the wrong word, because you were old enough. You didn't need permission.
Right.
But give them your blessing,
Will I
guess.
support it? Yes.
Yeah. I would too.
I would, for sure. And this day may come that one day they'll be like, hey, see you later. But...
So you're slicing meats and cheeses and sausages and
I'm at that school, and in my status, my student status, there was a lot of like legal things that I had to make work. Right? I couldn't drive because I didn't have my social security number. The law changed after 9/11. You couldn't just get one, right? So you had to qualify for your social security. So I couldn't get my driver's license, and I needed to go to work. And what I did was, one of my ladies that I cleaned her house, I made a deal with her, and I say, hey, I'll continue to clean your house for free, anything else you need, if you drive me to work every day. And she lived like a few houses down. And she did that. So that's how I got her. And, that was before Uber, that was before, all that.
So once a week, you'd go down to her house, give her a few hours.
Yep. And that was like extra, like she would ask me for like other things to do, obviously, not just come and clean, but that's the agreement that we had, that she would drive me to work. And then from work, somebody would always give me a ride. That was never a problem, but I couldn't drive. And then eventually, I had to drive because of that school, and the school was in Skokie. So you think about it, Roselle and Skokie, that's a little bit of a hike.
Half hour apart, sure.
Right. So I had no choice but to start driving without my driver's license.
So now you're breaking the law.
Then I broke the law. So that thankfully didn't last too long, because what happened, the school because I was in that school for a while, they found a way to get the students to participate in like a work for school in a way, like, you know, like, I don't know how to say, like you would be part of the school faculty in a way, or help assist with something, and that would give you permission to get a social security number. So there would be a special application.
So the school was working angles to help the students get what they needed.
You would have to qualify, you would have to like petition, and then that petition would go and you would get your social security number.
Loopholes.
Yes.
Got it.
I don't know if they still do that, but back in the day it was doable. So that's how I got my social, and then when I got my social, I could get my driver's license. Now, how I got my driver's license in Poland, I don't know if you know that, it's not that easy to get driver's license.
Why?
It's super expensive.
Why though? Is it like a license? Is it to generate money with the license?
Yes, to generate money, and they're super strict, and people attempt the exam like 3-4 times at a time.
Weird.
At least that's what it was before. And you have to pay for your lessons, which are very expensive, and then you have to pay for the exam, which is very expensive.
Did you ever hear that, Drew?
No.
Me neither.
I mean, I wouldn't hear about it, or I think to ask about it, I guess.
So I actually attempted driver's license in Poland twice, and I failed. Like to the point that they come with a ruler and they actually measure how far you are from the curb. So like little things like, because it's money, right? You fail, you come back, you got to do the whole thing again. And it was, so I never passed my driver's license in Poland. Here I learned to drive because I had to. So then I went to take my test here in America. I did my written test, no problem, and I went for my actual test drive, and I may have been speeding a little bit over 25, right? Because my friends, my American friends, told me that you have to always go a little bit over, right? So it's not like you're like trying too hard. So I did went a little bit over, and I failed. I went back in line and I said, listen, I know what I did wrong. I'm sorry. Can I test again? And I tested the same day.
Slow down.
I got my driver's license the same day.
Can't believe you would have thought that speeding was okay at your driving test.
I had good friends, right?
No. I know that being young, you do stupid shit like that. So eventually, you couldn't have made sandwiches forever.
No, I couldn't. And then I was working in a Polish store. I was in a Polish community in Roselle, and then I heard that one of the customers, she was working in the doctor's office, and I'm like, that's a cool job, you know, Polish speaking doctor's office, right? That would be something I could do.
What kind of doc?
Well, I was just interested in any doctor's office. So I started looking at the ads, and like, okay, if there are any ads that are looking for receptionists, what could I even do, right? And I remember I told my boyfriend at the time, I'm like, hey, you know, I think I'm going to look into working in like an office, you know, like a Polish bilingual office, you know, see if I can do something. And I remember he said it, he says, who do you think is going to hire you? You know, like, what do you think? You know, you clean houses and then you work at the deli store. Nobody's going to hire you. I'm like, okay. And I kind of put that idea, you know, stuffed it down a little bit. This is a good story. I went for my gynae exam, and just like that, right? Routine exam, just like that.
Talking to the doc.
Small talk. He's like, oh, what do you do? And blah, 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 blah. And there's me, just like that. Well, actually, I'm looking for a job. I'm actually thinking about looking for a job in a doctor's office. Oh, really? Okay. The business was finished. You know, I got dressed. He came back, and I
filled out an application or something.
I kind of had an interview. He says, hey, we're kind of looking just for a helper, just once a week, if you want to come in. I'm like, that'll be awesome. You know, that's it. And the moment I got in for once a week as a helper, I was able to...
You worked hard. And
yeah, and eventually, you know, I was there for many, many years. And then, you know, I got additional training, you know, like the blood draw and like, you know, like the CNA stuff. So, and I think that's how I get exposed into like the nursing. And I really liked that part because when I came first, I didn't know what I want to do. I always wanted to be a PE teacher, but my parents said that's a dumb idea.
So let's talk about that for a minute. So you're a dancer. Martial artist.
Yeah.
Like our coach Dan wants to fight you so bad.
He is
not literally fight you. He wants to you know, get you out there fighting. So you're super into the physical stuff. You wanted to be a PE teacher, but
I did. Yeah.
Being around all those patients, you enjoyed the medical stuff, the patient care.
Yeah, I realized that's That's awesome. So that's I started, from the doctor's office. I ended up, and at that time, I got married, and I was able to completely change my status to the resident, and then go to school, regular college, without that international visa problem, and I started a nursing program, and at that time I also had I had my son, and he was a baby, so that's my nursing school was during when my kids were little.
It's a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was hard, but I had a great support, so that was important. And then I started working in the hospital at the bedside, which again was super exciting, and I loved it. But then also it was very stressful, and
crazy shifts and all that.
Crazy shifts. You bring your
kids.
stress home. There's a lot of liability. A lot of times I felt like it's not really safe because of the amount of patients that we have, the complexity of patients that we have and we have to take care of. And
What do you mean by safe?
because there were shifts. If I work in night shift, I was working on a medical and pediatric floor. So I could have a patient that is completely covered with infection precautions, right? Like, let's say there's a wound, there's a MRSA, you have to gown up, you have to go in. My next patient would be somebody who is on suicide watch, and they do have a sitter, and you got to make sure they're okay. My another patient would be with blood transfusions, and then so I would have up to 6 patients, and then also I would have another patient that it would be a newborn baby there with with elevated bilirubin, and I need to help mom to take care of that baby and make sure the baby's feeding and that she's breastfeeding and stuff like that. So by safe, I mean, how can you go from this? Obviously, we have gowns and equipment, but just the fact of the combining this type of patients with somebody that is super contagious, and then going to a newborn's room, and then also somebody who can be really combative. I mean, you could have it all in one night, and then it depends how you manage it. And
people wonder why nurses can be
a lot of times that's
angry.
Yeah, that 12-hour shift, it was never 12 hours, it was 14 hours, because after 12 hours you still had to sit down and you had to chart, because if it's not charted, it didn't happen. And especially if things were going bad, if the patient did not do well, you need to make sure the documentation is on point to paint the whole picture. So there was a lot of stress. And then, as you mentioned, the schedule and the family life. So we had 2 little kids, and I was working PM shift, night shift. I've done it all. But what we did is, when I worked, we switched places with the kids. So the kids were either with dad or they were with me. We never actually saw each other, So that was a sacrifice that we made for the family because of that. So with nursing, hospital nursing, I feel it's hard, and I've done it for 6 years. Do I miss it? I miss some of the clinical aspects. I don't miss the feeling drained, and I don't miss feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and feeling out of control. Like, there's a lot of stuff that it's out of your control, and you need to be able to navigate through that. So, and then because of my family and my kids, I wanted something more stable, more safe, and that's how I switched, and I went to Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, no weekends, no nights. I've changed my focus. I'm still a nurse. I still do nursing, but now I work in the research, right? So now I work in the corporate world. So it's a completely different lifestyle. And I love it. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
Going home at night, being able to have dinner, go to the gym.
Work from home. And then what I like about my job is it's still patient safety. You're still making an impact. It's not hands-on and it's not direct, but overall you're still making an impact. But in the end of the day, I shut my computer down and nobody dies. Versus you work in a hospital, you bring everything with you. Your brain never rests. I mean, my brain sometimes never rests because of the email I have to send, but it's a completely different comparison.
Sure.
So me personally,
you're not getting directly connected to the patients where somebody is, but it's just not you, right?
Right. It's a completely different world.
Do your parents, so you never went home. I'm sure you've visited, but were they like, what the heck? You're just gone?
So first,
And that's 20 years ago almost.
yeah, so I'm trying to remember when was the first time I went to visit. I think it was after, I want to say it was after 6 years.
Wow. So 3 months. I mean, could you imagine as a mom, and did they come here at all?
My little brother came.
But not mom and dad?
My mom came, but not
Okay.
my dad, I think. I think my dad, I'm trying to remember, but I think I saw my dad for the first time. No, I'm sorry, I'm lying. They were here. They were here for the wedding.
Okay.
When we got married, they were here. Yep. The moment they were here for the wedding, they came, and then I was going there too, so around that time. So.
Okay.
But yeah, it was a few years before I was able to go back. And it was weird. It was very weird. Because you come home and it's like, is it my home? It's always, and things change.
Run into old friends and stuff that...
Yeah. The weird thing is that in my head, so when I left, like my memories of Poland, of my friends, they're like frozen in time. So a lot of things I'm talking about, there may not even be applicable anymore because my memories, my perception is from 19 years ago. So, the streets, the store, the coffee shops, like the town that it's evolving and even the culture is changing and I'm not really in it. So that's the weird part because you kind of feel disconnected in a way. And then you see your friends and they're as old as I am and we're like,
What happened to you?
yeah, what happened to you? And you remember them from high school. It's weird how brain works, that it just freezes those memories and you're stuck until you make new ones.
Sure.
So I usually try to go to Poland every 2 years, but we haven't been able to go in 3 years now. So I'm really shooting for next year, I'm hoping.
All the COVID BS and stuff.
Yeah. It just got too complicated, and then with the restrictions, the borders are closed or they're open for a little bit, but then there's a quarantine, and it's just like, it's risky. I don't want to get stuck there.
Yeah.
So.
Talk a little bit about your martial arts history.
Okay.
How old were you when you started training a martial art?
I was 14, and growing up in Poland, we would just go outside and hang out in the neighborhood. And as I said, some neighborhoods were good, some were bad. So you made friends from good ones and bad ones. And one of my initially neighborhood nemesis,
Boy or a girl?
girl,
Okay.
became my best friend. And she's like, hey, that's what I do. You want to try some karate? I'm like, well, sure, let's go. And we started going. And I got hooked, and I did karate since I was 14 until I came to the U.S. when I was 20, almost 20.
You competed?
I competed a lot. And
But this is more like full contact
it
stuff.
was full contact. So the karate back in the day was called Seitedo karate, but now they switched their organization. So now it's called Seito karate, which it's different. And I don't know how to explain it, but it's different in America than it is in Europe. Like in America, the rules are different. I would say it's very washed down in a way. Everybody can do it type of thing. Versus in Poland, not everybody can do it.
Why?
You got to be tough.
Oh.
It's like it's different mindset.
Were you guys using gloves?
No.
So it's bare knuckles.
Bare knuckles, but there was no face punches. So it was
Okay.
anything below the head, right?
Sure.
But bare knuckles.
And kicking.
Kicking, punches. My coach or sensei, right, because it was karate, we're still in touch. We're still good friends. Whenever I go there, we visit. We have a great relationship. It's kind of you become family after, so many years. But I remember the trainings were crazy to the point that breaking point. Like we would go out in the winter outside of the gym, and the classes were done like usually in like old warehouses, like old gyms or school gyms where they would like rent just the gym area for the evening so we can do karate. But we would go outside in the winter with like bare feet, and we were supposed to train in the snow, like
Just to make you hard.
just to make you hard and uncomfortable and make you suffer. And then the more you suffered, the more they were yelling at you because you shouldn't suffer, right? Or we would go like, there was like this huge bridge, I remember, in a city by the main road, and we would have to like jump squat up on that bridge and then go do that for like free as a warm-up for like freaking half an hour. There were
And you're like 14, 15, 16?
at that yeah. So it was, that's all I knew, right? So it was okay. And then you couldn't never question. You always had to listen, and you did not want to like show that, you know, you're weak, because if you're weak, they don't want you there, right? It wasn't like, oh, this is good enough for you. You're good, because no, it's that you do it or you don't, or you're not doing it hard enough. And the same thing with tournaments. I was good. Every tournament I went, I won. So, but there was a lot of pressure with that, because I needed to win.
For the school or for you?
For my coach, for everybody. It would be really embarrassing if I didn't. And I know now the culture is different, because now it's more of a business oriented. It's like, you know, like, just go out there and have fun, you know, show your best. Back in the day, it was like, no, we're going there as a team, and especially if it was like, you know, like tournaments in different towns, right, or international tournaments. We're going there as a team, and everybody has to get a medal. And you did not want to disappoint. Like, that was the worst thing, that you can disappoint your coach. And I was lucky that I never disappointed him, but it's like I even today, like training, fighting is just like it, like my palms get sweaty, and I just get this, it just stays with you forever, you know. And that's a sad part, because I did really well, but it was a lot of stress. So then I did that for a long time, and I loved it, and I was good at it. And then in high school, I got a boyfriend who was like, you know what, you should be a girl. You shouldn't be, you know, doing all that. I'm tired of my friends beating you up, and you're always walking around with bruises, and your knuckles are bleeding, and you're always, you know, you should have long nails, and should have nice makeup, and you should do like aerobic and stuff like that. And you know what? And he got into my head. I'm like, oh my God, I love him so much. He's the love of my life. Yeah, he's right.
You listened to him.
Oh my gosh.
So you started growing your nails out and putting makeup
I'm
on.
like, he's right. Yeah.
And doing jazzercise.
Yeah, for a few months. And then I started cheating on that decision and started going to some...
Sneaking to karate?
Yes, some hidden... I found different school in a different town. I told him, like, my college credits are different. And you know, like, and for, like, a few months, I was, like, sneaking out, like literally, like, I had the whole plan, just like, you know, cheaters do.
I need karate.
But I was like doing karate. It was Oyama karate, so it wasn't different, same style. So like they don't connect the dots, like they don't know me, and
That's
I just
hilarious.
went there and trained. And then one day he caught me because again I was bruised up and my knuckles were bleeding. He's like, "What the is that?"
You're training, aren't you?
Yeah, and he says, "I won't be mad. Tell me the truth." I'm like, "Well, he loves me. I can tell him the truth."
So you told him, and then what?
And he's like, "That's it. Either this or me." And guess what? I'm like, okay. I guess
chose
it's you.
him?
I guess it's you. But then a few months later, that after I came here, and I knew like that was the only way I could like separate myself from him, from
when
that,
you came to America.
from that love thing, because it's like, you know, like when you're that young, you just think that person is a god, and whatever they say, you know, your judgment is so skewed. So when I came here, I was finally being able to like, oh, no.
Did you find martial arts when you were here?
Yes, I did. It's all connected. So I was looking for some karate classes. And
Just when you're cleaning houses and all that?
That was when I was working at the Polish store. And I
Okay.
actually went on...
So the first couple years you did not?
Not for like 2 years,
Okay.
maybe. Yes. And then I was always trying to like, you know, work out in the park or something, do like my own thing. And I remember walking to one of the karate places in Roselle on my run, and I was like, oh, karate school, like I found it like out of nowhere. And I got some information, and it was just like way over the top. I'm like, okay, so I gotta pay a deposit, and I gotta pay a sign-in fee, and I gotta buy your uniform, and I gotta sign a contract for 2 years. I barely could make, you know, month to month. I'm like, I couldn't do it, so I never did that. And then years later, my situation was better. I was working at the doctor's office. I had a steady paycheck, right? I was going to school. I was more established. I found another karate school in Bartlett, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I could join, and I actually did join. And I started from the white belt again, and I got all the way to the brown belt here in America. So because in Poland when I left, I was a third Q, so I was a brown belt in karate in Poland. But then when I came here, it's a different karate, right? You start from scratch. So I got to brown belt in karate here, and it was American karate. So it was way different because in Poland it was all about the impact and who hits harder and how hard you get hit and how you can hit back, right? Here was like, you're not allowed to touch people. You can just tap them.
Lame.
So hard for me to even like, but I still like the fact that I could kick air and just, or punching bags and stuff like that. So that was it. But
Kept you fit.
But that's how I met my husband, my ex-husband, through karate. So, and then eventually karate turned into jiu-jitsu.
Which is how I know you.
Right. And actually, initially, I trained Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Cool.
Which is more traditional and it's more well-rounded, right? And
talk about well-rounded.
Just what is different is it covers all three areas, right? It covers the stand-up, it covers the takedowns, and it covers the groundwork. And that's what I say, like when I think of well-rounded, because when you have a curriculum, you learn all of that simultaneously versus, BJJ, we do talk about self-defense, but majority of our time, most of the time is spent on the ground. And sometimes I feel like I wish I had more opportunities to do more stand-up, to do more takedowns. Unfortunately, with Japanese jiu-jitsu, it's not as popular and, it's not as common, and I would say it's a dying art. And I don't want anybody coming after me and saying that I'm talking nonsense, but it's not. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is leading right now, right? It's practical, it's more advanced, and you can apply it to so many levels. You can apply it to self-defense, you can apply it to sport, you can apply it to however it fits your life, right? With Japanese jiu-jitsu, I love the self-defense aspect. I remember when I was training it, I think it was very useful, but it was also this kind of traditional, old school respect mentality that I liked about it too. But from that, I did that for 10 years. And then in the same time, simultaneously, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's how I met Dan. We met through our mutual coach. And yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Now you're a brown belt.
Now I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 9 years now. And I'm really hoping this is going to be a forever thing.
Why wouldn't it be?
No, I want it. I don't expect any other, ability that is going to happen unless I get like super hurt or my body's not going to let me do that anymore. I will never stop just because. But if there's like physical limitation, that's the only thing I can think of.
What do you like about it? I mean, you show up, one of a few girls in a room full of sweaty dudes. They bash you. I mean, you choked me out 2 days ago.
It was fun.
But you go submit yourself to people that are most, on average, 100 pounds heavier than you.
Yeah.
Drinking their sweat. Getting bruised.
Yep.
How is that fun?
You know what? It doesn't bother me.
I'm just asking.
Right.
For people listening, like especially from a girl's perspective.
If you want to invite somebody to do that, it's really hard to gift wrap the idea of jiu-jitsu when you come to the actual day-to-day reality of jiu-jitsu. I train because I love it, and it's just such a martial arts in general. It's been a huge part of my life, and with jiu-jitsu at first, it was just something I was told to do in a way that was like, oh, this is good for you, you should try it. Okay, another move I have to follow, another drill, another thing. It was not clicking. Like it was just another martial art, right? And then one day, and we were talking, long time ago, I was helping with the demo, and I was just this 140-pound girl, trying to demonstrate, like a trap and roll or something. So there was this big dude, 300 pounds, I think, maybe 250. I don't want to offend anybody, but his job was to hold me down. And he didn't know any jiu-jitsu, okay?
So for the listeners, you're on your back.
I'm on my back. That big person sitting on top of me. They don't have any training, right? And my job is to escape.
Get them off.
His job is to just pin me down and just hold me in one spot.
So he's got 100 pounds on you.
Yeah, or even more than
Legs straddling your torso.
Yep. And
face to face, chest to chest.
Face to face, chest to chest, and that was it. It was an easy task, and I'm like, okay, and I did that.
So you just trapped his arms and bridged over, and off he went.
But not only this, just this squirmy side of it, like him trying to grab my arms, and he didn't have jiu-jitsu training, so he didn't know how to maintain mount. Right? We're talking about a person that is really sitting on you. And trying to
be
muscle you with your arms, right, for the purpose of just holding you down. And so he couldn't deal with the hips, with the turns, with the side, with the everything. And then trap and roll, and I escaped. And for him, it was like, whoa, but it was for me too. That was the time that like a light bulb like really went on. And that was like 1.5 years after training jiu-jitsu. Like it wasn't like month in jiu-jitsu like, oh, this is cool. No, I was training. I was already training. I was doing the drills. I was doing the whole thing. I was not a believer. And that situation, I was like, oh shit. Like this is a stranger. He didn't let me do it. This is not my partner. This is not a drilling person. This is somebody who really tried to hold me down because his ego was at stake and he couldn't do it. And then there was a couple other moves, and then it was the other way around or something like that. And that for me was like, oh, like it works.
It did what the Gracies designed it to do.
And then since then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pay attention, and I'm gonna use it, and I'm gonna believe it. And then I was always very, very into that, aspect of self-defense, and especially, female self-defense and being safe. And I went through, you mentioned Gracie's, the women empowerment curriculum and everything like that. I always thought it was pretty cool how they did that. And they explain a lot of like mental aspects of it with that too. I always was passionate about the female self-defense because of that. Generally, they're smaller, they're weaker physically, right? And they're at disadvantage.
Nature.
And suddenly you can, especially with somebody who's not trained, you can equalize it. Or you can escape. And maybe, you're not going to beat somebody up. And that's what I always say, I may not be able to beat somebody up, but I will sure make it a hell of a fight. I'll make it harder for them. I will. So that's your chances of survival, of just handling a situation are so much greater because of being in that situation all the time, right? So obviously you're uncomfortable, and especially new people coming in. Oh, there's somebody in your bubble. There's somebody in your space. Oh, there's somebody between my legs. Somebody's breathing on me. Somebody's crushing me. Sweat, squeezes, everything, right? It is uncomfortable. But you know what? I would rather be uncomfortable with my friends in a safe environment than with somebody attacking me on the street.
Sure.
And the moment it happens, I'm going to freeze and I'm going to die. So I look at it that way. And with jiu-jitsu, I love it. And I don't know, it's weird because I'm not a, I don't know how to say it, like, I'm not like a fan. Like some people are just super into it and they're like passionate and they're like researching stuff and watching YouTube videos and they're like, I want to learn this move and I want to do that and that and that. Collection of all the skills and stuff. And for me, it's just more like, I love it. I enjoy it. It's good for me. It's good for my physical abilities. It's good for my mental abilities. I just want to continue doing it. And sometimes I feel like a little guilty about it, that I'm not so, I don't know how to say, like so into it on a different level, right? Like starstruck in a way.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, some people it becomes a
passion to like
a hobby too, where they know all of the
names,
who did this when, and did you see this one match, and
and I'm like, oh, okay, show me how it goes again. Oh, okay, yeah, I know that. So I'm more of a natural learner in a way, and I just like doing this.
I think the misconception, especially for ladies, is like, oh, you go take a weekend course and now you're safe. I mean, you train how many hours a week, you think?
So my usual schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So 10 hours.
Yes.
Because we're 2 hours at a crack.
Yes.
So 10 hours a week.
Yes.
That's 40 hours a month.
Yes. Obviously, sometimes life happens, right? You got
Sure.
doctor's appointment, kids and stuff like that, but...
That's a lot. That's a work week every month, basically.
Yeah. And then, am I 100% prepared? Probably not.
No, but like you said...
Are my chances greater? Yes.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because if somebody saw you, they wouldn't be like, oh, that chick. I mean, you got tattoos, you've got like a tough haircut, but you're not like, you don't have like chains or anything hanging off. You didn't get off a Harley.
Yeah.
You had girl shoes on. Somebody look at you and be like, yeah, whatever. It's a little lady. I'll slam her into a dumpster or whatever.
Yeah.
Have my way. But
If I could just... I wish people understood, especially females, if they could understand that, as you said, it's not about taking a class. Taking like one class, it's a great intro to, make you think about it, or just get your interest, or just show you what it could have been, or what opportunities for training. But you need to train all the time. That's the only thing that's going to make you, that's the only thing that's going to make it work. Because your body learns those responses. Some of the responses are becoming natural. Some of them you really have to put your brain to it. But every time you need to analyze a situation from a brain perspective, the moment that brain gets hijacked by emotions, by fear, you're doomed, right? So you need to rely on other things. And with constantly being exposed to that uncomfortable situation, as you said, getting choked, getting smashed, hard to breathe, it's too hot, it's just like I'm trapped, and it sucks. I hate it sometimes. Sometimes sometimes it's really rough. And I have days that is like, oh shit. And some days are like, okay, I made it. But that's also important, because you cannot be on top all the time. You cannot be, what's the purpose? It's like, oh, you go in and it's like you're having an awesome time and because you're so amazing at jiu-jitsu and you're never in a bad spot. You need those bad spots because you
need to share a donut or
you need to be
drink
vulnerable.
some strawberry vodka or sleep on a box spring.
Yeah, you need those bad moments to
scrub some toilets.
To grow, yeah.
I think that's the analogy of anybody that really trains a martial art long enough, is that's you start to see like you can have the parallels of hot and sweaty and tired, but it is freaking work.
It is. But how you feel the moment you're done, isn't that priceless?
For sure.
Isn't it like you carry stress of your daily life, and that's work, that's family, that's all the tasks that you have on your list, right? And then you go to the gym, and for those 2 hours, you're thinking about how you suck, or like things that you can do better, and you're able to completely rewire your brain, and it's like therapy. And then plus the physical aspects, right? You're exhausted. Your body's tired. You have this feeling good thing that you did like a workout, right? And I know it's not hugging, but there's something about squeezing and being squeezed that also helps, and you're overcoming.
I don't agree, but
I like when I squeeze you, when I squeeze your neck, it makes me happy.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, well, you're connecting with people that you care about too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So I've got a family member that says jiu-jitsu doesn't make you a better person.
Oh, I think it does. What do you think?
I was going to let you answer that.
What do you think?
I was going to let you answer.
Ah.
Yeah, I know what I think.
Okay, well, I want to know what you think, but
okay.
I do think that jiu-jitsu does make you a better person, because it depends. Are you a bad person from the start? Is that where we're going? That's the baseline?
No, I guess maybe the baseline is you are who you are.
You are who you are, and then you do jiu-jitsu, and then suddenly you're part of a community, and suddenly you're part of daily reminders and daily lessons of both how powerful you are and how vulnerable you are in the same time.
Yeah.
And I feel that it opens first of all, it really lets you learn about yourself and who you are and what are your physical limitations, what are your mental limitations, at what point do you quit, at what point do you push harder, at what point do you defeat yourself basically like, okay, I suck at it, I don't want to do it anymore.
I'm too tired.
Or even like, this whole thing, it's pointless, right? Because maybe you're not performing the way in your head you think you should perform. So there's this awesome quote that through the years of training, it's always been with me, and it's like, we do not rise to the level of our expectations, but we fall to the level of our training. And I think it's the truth. I mean, we can think we're, whatever we want to be, but the truth is, the mat will tell the truth.
Doesn't lie.
Mat doesn't lie. And we're also equal, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a CEO, right? Or if you don't have a job, or whatever, if you're the happiest person on earth, or this is the worst day that you're having today, the moment you come together, it all equalizes, and we're all there for the same purpose.
Sweat soup.
Yeah. Sweat soup and support.
I agree with everything you just said. The only thing I would probably add is that I think it all, and you would agree, I know it, is your attitude, how you apply it. Because you could make somebody go do all of that, but if they have a shitty attitude, like you could force a kid or force somebody in jail, you got to go do this. But if they've got a bad attitude about it, they will not get all of those things. Or the community, it could be a community of assholes. It could be a bunch of bad criminal dudes. Like, I've been in gyms where these guys were fighting illegally, selling drugs, stealing. They were just a bunch of shitheads that were learning how to fight. So, I mean, that's probably not a good community to be around.
No, it's
not. But I agree. Like our gym, we talk about this at the gym. We've talked about it, like Brian and I. So you guys can check the podcast out with her significant other, Big Brian, Killer B. He was on here. Dan's been on here. Who else from the gym's been over here? Anybody? We just had Todd.
Did you have Pat?
Pat has been on here, yes, Pat Keneally. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. But you get around people that all have, everybody's got families and problems, and
Just life, right?
But then you're around a bunch of people that are spending significant amount of their life getting good at overcoming challenges. So usually it's like, what's going on with you? And somebody you can see is dejected. It's not like, you're have a good night. Usually you get a group of people saying, like, you can do it, you'll be good. How can I help you? What's going on? Do you want to talk about it? Let's go get a beer. Let's go sit in the sauna.
Yeah.
Let's go get a beer and sit in the sauna. All of that happens.
The benefits are amazing. The physical, the mental, the community, the caring. I mean, it's all there. I'm not really like good at selling things and a talker, but if I could be better at selling jiu-jitsu, I would totally want that.
If you were going to be better at it, what would that look like?
Jiu-jitsu or selling jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, the selling. Like, what would you want to get out of your sales pitch if you were better at it?
I want to encourage more females to give it a try.
Yeah, I always love when a new girl comes to the gym just from the perspective of, like, great, there's somebody else that's going to be harder to hurt. And if it's a mom, like, that's somebody that can teach her daughter, not just the mechanical stuff of here's how to break a dude's elbow, but like, this is good for you.
Yeah. And I do it because I truly believe it's good for them. It's good for them for so many reasons. And for the primary reason, self-defense. Be able, when the something bad happens, you have the skills, or you will be harder to kill. You'll buy yourself time, or you will survive. I mean, it could be just as simple as that.
When we were down in Costa Rica, you and I were on the beach, everybody else was having drinks, and we were being circled by, remember that couple?
Yeah.
These people were 100% looking to rob us. And they thought, like, we were drunk enough that they could sneak in and grab a bag or a purse or something. And you and I both noticed them. It was beautiful. The sun's or the moon's out over the ocean, and there's beautiful music, and the surf's crashing. But this couple, they were pretty slick. Like, they just kept circling, like, at a distance, looking to see how they could get in. And you and I were kind of like back to back, like, and we were just like, well, if one comes this way or one comes this way.
We divided. We already divided.
And everybody had fun, but nobody was even paying attention but us. Not even because of martial arts, but I think that's just the kind of people that we are. But like you said, you go and you realize how vulnerable you are. Like, man, like, you choked me the other day until I had a choice to get unconscious or tell you, okay, stop, that's as much as I can take. Like, that's a reminder that there's probably another little person in the world that could do that to me too, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're not so cavalier about your decision making. Like, doesn't mean like I'm scared of you or scared of...
But you're going to be aware, right?
Yeah, like I don't want that person to get their hands on my shirt. I don't want that person to get close enough to me to be able to manipulate my body like that or pull my arms away where they can break them off or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, so getting exposed to it, you learn, like, I'm not invincible. Or just because I can go punch people in the gym, it doesn't always go as planned.
Or even for me, especially with the big dudes, it sucks when you're on the bottom.
There's guys that you roll with that are 200 pounds heavier than you.
Yeah, and that's never...
How do you deal with that?
I go back and forth.
Because I'm 70 pounds or so more than you, so, like, even that sucks when there's somebody 100 pounds heavier than me. Like, oh,
I go back and forth with my intentions, because a lot of times is, okay, I know for sure I need to be in that spot and be able to learn to deal with this and just survive when I'm there, right? So there's this mindset, and then a lot of times there's completely flip. I'm like, there's no way you getting me on my back. I'm going to stay on top this whole time, and I'm going to do, that's my goal. I just don't want that reverse. So so I'm trying to do both, but if I am on the bottom, it's pure survival mode most of the time, right? I'm just trying for them to move. I'm trying for them to go for something, so I can find a little window of opportunities to get that space and escape, and or just not die right away. Just die slower, longer.
I'll die later, but not now.
Yeah, so
that's funny.
So, and especially with chokes, I like to push it a little further, because with arm, I'm like, you got to be careful. You don't want your arm broken, right? It's like you don't have that much time. But with chokes, you can. I feel like you can wiggle that allowance, the time allowance, a little better. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks all the time. And sometimes I'm like, what the hell? Sometimes I have days like that. Like, what am I doing?
Sure.
Sometimes I have days that I'm really scared. And then especially on Sundays, when we do our valetudo with punches, when we kick it up a notch and we make it more real. So that's when you're on the bottom, and that's scary. Because if that was a real life situation, the fear becomes real. Okay, and especially when I'm helpless at that time. And usually I have a shitty day, because it's
what she's saying is we put gloves on and we grapple, except we kick and punch each other. And nobody's like trying to hurt each other, so it's not true valetudo. We're not like, it's not anything, no holds barred.
We're still friends, yes.
Yeah, we're not headbutting and in that, but I think what you're saying, and I'm very well aware of it, like, shit, this person's on top of me. They're hitting me maybe this hard, maybe a little harder. In reality, they'd be hitting me 5 times as hard, and I gotta stop it. I have to figure out how to stop it, because if that was real, I'd be blacked out and getting my head caved in.
So then after that happens, I usually have to have a little pep talk with myself, and it's like, okay, I'm still doing it with my friends. This is for the better. My friends are never going to hurt me. And then...
You're still better than the person that sat home and watched Sunday morning cartoons or whatever.
Yes, at least, I'm in that situation. I can recognize it when it happens, and I can try to do something about it versus be completely overwhelmed and frozen and just give up right away. So... yeah, I love training. I love jiu-jitsu. Sometimes it's love and hate, but mostly love. And the thing is that you always, no matter what, you always feel better after.
Usually, unless something gets bent the wrong way too far.
Yeah.
But you learn how to stop that.
Yeah. And then you still have satisfaction that you didn't sit on your couch and you actually went and did something, right?
That makes you better too.
That makes you better.
Change gears again. So you grew up in Poland.
Yep.
Which at the time still had quite a bit of the fallout of the war still left behind. Stuff's changed a ton in the last 20 years.
Right.
Are we soft here in America? Like, just by and large, are we just soft people compared to like the folks you grew up around? I worked with tons of Polish carpenters and concrete guys and drywall guys as a young man. And I was cool with them. They reminded me of like my uncles, like guys that could, dude would bring a big chunk of some meat. Somebody else would bring a huge loaf of bread. Somebody'd have a jar of vodka. Somebody else would have like a hunk of cheese, and we'd go sit under a tree and they just pass chunks of food in a circle, and you'd take a bite and just pass it around. It was I always enjoyed like the family kind of a vibe. Hard-working, rough dudes that drank hard, worked hard. You didn't want to get in a fight with them because they weren't afraid to frickin' throw down. Rough, tough men. But are we weak here? The time that you've when you came here and you're seeing America for the first time and looking at how people raised their kids and how they went about their life?
It's very interesting that you mention it because Poland back again 19 years ago, now it's different culture, things change, but from what I remember, that was that very hardcore mentality, right? You don't want to mess with people, and there were so many fights. My brother was beat up so many times on the street, like you really had to watch your back a lot of times. And but what I liked, and very the social status, the way you carry yourself, is all about the reputation. So what I loved about America coming here was the freedom of being who you are. And that was it's not from the movies that I watched, but when I came here, it was just through observation, just first of all, different people, the diversity of people, right? That was for me, that was amazing. I'm like, oh, diversity of people, cultures, people, religions. I come from Poland, where it was, this is the right way. Anybody who's not doing this, they're them, us versus them, right? And then I come in here, I'm like, oh, you can choose your religion? Like you can decide what you want to do. You can choose what do you want to wear? And I'm not saying I didn't know what to wear, but there were expectations. So here, and it's a funny example, my mom would not go across the street to the store or take the garbage out without the makeup on in case the neighbors see her, right? She would not wear Snickers, gym shoes with stuff, because she should have nice shoes. It was all about the dressing up and just the status. And versus here, I'm I've seen people going to Walgreens in their pajamas. It was mind blown. Seriously, I'm really? And nobody says anything? They can do that?
Because they don't care.
They don't care. Can they not care? Is that okay? Is that allowed? Oh, that was my selling point. I'm I can do whatever I want. I don't have to wear makeup, or I can wear gym shoes and stuff like that. And even today, it's funny, we're laughing right now, but my mom looks at me and, okay, I'm dressed up today because I went to the office, right? But normally, it's shorts and sweatshirts, jeans, not even jeans, the sweatpants. And I remember whenever my mom came visit, and I was just she told me so many times that I just dress so poorly.
Your mom would tell you?
Because of that, because of I'm not well put together, on my day-to-day activities, because I want to be comfortable. And then growing up, it wasn't about being comfortable, it was about looking good. So when I say soft, when you ask me about soft,
I phrase it that way for a reason. Go ahead.
That it's a different culture, but initially this open culture, the freedom of individuals' choices, that's what drove me here.
So we're actually tougher because we don't give a shit what people think.
Maybe.
When my dad always talks about, when I was young, people dressed nice, they cared about what they looked like. And it's kind of interesting, I never really thought about it, because you see old pictures of kids, I wore a suit, not suit, but a tie to school as a kid with a uniform. Of course, we could talk all about that, but if your mom only put the makeup on because she cared what the neighbor thought, then that's really a waste of life. But if you're doing it because I want to look this way, that's a completely different thing. And that is the lady going to the Walmart or the Walgreens in the pajamas. If she's happy looking like that. That is the beauty of
Right.
liberty.
And that's, I loved it.
What's your favorite thing about America?
19 years ago or now?
Okay, go both.
Well, 19 years ago, that was it. The fact, first of all, for me, it was always the land of opportunities. I mean, this is where dreams come true. And I am the solid example of it. Mm-hmm. And I feel, coming from different countries, with countries with different opportunities, I feel like, being born in America, I feel like it puts you ahead already just by the birthright. Mm-hmm. This is your privilege to just be in the land of opportunities, because you can be whoever you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. And
I agree with that.
I do believe that we are the drivers of our life, and I know there are some circumstances that things happen to us and we cannot control it, but most of the time we're the ones in control, and we should definitely expand on it and pursue whatever our desires are in life. But the freedom, and I think that was, I don't know, that was the thing that I loved back then the most. Now I feel like it just kind of expanded so much that it's just like sometimes I feel a little overwhelmed with all the freedoms.
Really?
than there is to. Because
so even though you've been here almost 2 decades, it's still the first half of your life formed your framework of...
I feel like I'm a cultural hybrid, because there's certain things that is just like, as I remember it growing up, and a lot of my personality comes from it. And then there's a lot of things that I'm just so assimilated with this culture. So it's a little bit of both. My goal from the very beginning was to become like a citizen here and become part of it. So my goal was to adapt myself, to fit in. That's what I wanted. And that's why I never lived in a Polish neighborhoods. I always tried to look outside so I can learn the language, right? So I can learn the culture, so I can, fit in. And that's all I ever wanted. I want to be a typical person, a typical family, nothing more, nothing less, just a normal person, but living here. So...
Do you feel you've done that?
I think I've done it.
Yeah.
I think I've done it. I speak clearly, right?
I understand.
My accent is southern, except for...
I constantly joke that she is from Kazakhstan. Yes.
We go back and forth with you making fun of the way
I'm not
I talk.
making fun. I'm having fun.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay,
You speak way better English than I do Polish.
That's a fact.
Dobrze.
Bardzo dobrze.
Yes. That's all I got. I got nothing.
So yeah, I think it was a very interesting journey, and it's not over, and I am happy, with everything that happened to me. I don't have any regrets, because I feel like whatever happened to me, those were lessons that were needed, and then they were just like, a stepping stone that you had to go through to.
What do you say when people act like life's hard, or like they don't have opportunities, or that they don't have maybe like the same opportunities that somebody else had? What does that make you think about or feel?
It depends. It really depends, because I'm always trying to understand other people's perspective, and it's really hard if you look at other people through your own lens. So I'm actually trying to be very conscious about not doing that. Mm-hmm. So I have to listen to people, and I have to look at people from what they're sharing from their perspective, and how they see things, and how they problem solve from their perspective.
That's pretty adult of you.
Because if I do it from my perspective, it may be a little skewed. Mm-hmm. Because my perspective is through my experiences, and in my experiences, nothing was easy, nothing was given, everything was worked for. And if there were obstacles, you had to work through them. And sometimes, there were bad moments. Sometimes there were
Somebody gave
victories.
you a bed.
Somebody gave me a bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always get some handout.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes and I know you didn't mean that, but sometimes I look back because I think, man, I worked so hard. And then I think about all the people, family, or friends, or like older people in my life that like maybe gave me a tool, or gave me the connection to somebody, or
That's a great point.
just little stupid things, not stupid.
No,
but,
that's amazing. That's a great point, because that's exactly what it is. Nobody can technically do it alone.
The lady that lets you clean the house for car rides, she could have said, screw you.
She could have said no, and then she could have been figured it out. But
granted, you were giving her something in return, but that was still a pretty sweet deal.
Yep. Because we both, it was very transactional, right? We both had something we needed from each other, and we were happy with this. But I agree. I don't think that one person can do everything alone, because we don't live by one person. You're always surrounded by people. You're influenced by people. I always feel like we're a product of our environment. Whatever your environment, you're the product. And you're constantly being influenced by your reality. And I am a different person than I was 19 years ago, but I'm also a different person than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And I'm going to be different in next 5. And 100%. Probably the same thing with you.
I look at stuff that I wrote or that like we filmed 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I thought I had stuff like nailed.
Right.
And then it's like, man, what an idiot. What was I thinking? And
same thing.
That being aware of that also makes me think, like, even now as I sit here, like, how will I change or evolve in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years?
Yep.
Yeah. What would you tell 19-year-old Kasia today if you could go meet her on a park bench?
Okay. I would probably say, don't be drinking that trashy vodka.
It's so fun though. My sister and I have fond memories of Boone's Farm, garbage $3, $2 bottles of Strawberry Fields wine. Yeah, that's ugh. So that's the advice you'd give her?
Well, probably, because I feel like there was a lot of wasted time. But again, you got to think of it. People, you were sad and you needed that comfort, right? And people were missing their families, and we were in like this horrible, horrible situation. Wow, oh me, there's nothing, let's just have a drink and the pain will go away, right? So it's just like, okay, no, you snap of it. So I would tell Kasia, you got to snap of it a little earlier so you can get going and just figure things out maybe quicker. So
don't medicate.
Yes.
Get after it.
Yes.
I dig it. What would you tell the people that are listening? If you never meet them, never see them, never cross their path, what would you pass on from the 25 years you've been on this earth, or however long?
Oh my gosh, that's okay. That's a tough one.
Buy gunfighter gun oil?
Yeah, that's
what
the
she
one.
was going to say.
But no, I would just say, you can, and this is so cheesy, but you can do so much for yourself if you truly want to. Like, a lot of times we have to allow ourselves to be weakened by the moment, but I would encourage people.
What do you mean by that?
Something happens, and let's say situation, going back to my example, I come in, I have $300, I lose that $300, and now I'm also in debt, right? I have no job, I am living with a bunch of strangers, I'm in a country that I don't know the language, right? I don't have furniture, I don't have clothes, it's just like, I don't even have friends, right? I just met these people. Like, what do you do? Like, you can have strawberry vodka, right?
So you could allow all of that circumstances to break you down, is
you
what
can
you're
break
saying.
down, you can go home. Quit. You can go down the wrong path and start drinking and never move out of that hole. Or you can allow yourself for that tiny moment of feeling down, being vulnerable, like suffering, but then you got to come up with a plan how you're going to recover from that to move forward. Unless you fully accept that this is the reality you want, which it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I think too many people end right there. Here's what happened, and then like,
Right, especially if it's like things that are out of your control, right? What is in your control? And I know that's a hot topic people talk about all the time. What is in your control? And just do what is in your control and see if you can do better within your control. That's the advice I guess I get.
Yeah, I think too often we take too much off of our plate and we say it's just the universe or luck happening to us.
It would be so easy if that was the case.
Right. I tell people, and myself included, like, well, who set your alarm clock last night?
Yes.
What did you eat for breakfast? Did
Yes.
like nature just shove something into your
Yes.
mouth, or did you go get it out of your refrigerator and eat it?
Yes.
Did you choose what to listen to on the way to work? Did you choose what time to go to lunch? Did you choose, you just keep going and going. Lots of choices.
But stuff happens too, but what's next?
Yeah.
It happened. What now?
Continue.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Continue until you can't.
I appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you for having
I'm
me.
going to choke the shit out of you tonight.
Okay.
Where's a pen? Here it is. Everybody that comes in signs that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I'll pull this out of the way, but you got to grab this.
Okay.
Katarzyna. Maybe one day you'll see Katarzyna in the ring. No, you don't think so? Not doing it?
I think I'm good.
You're good now? You've had enough
think I'm
enough
good.
fights?
Yeah.
Hey, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Share it if you dug it. I think for a lot of people, it's good information. Tell Drew you love him in the comments section. If there's something that we haven't talked about on this show that you want to hear, just, shoot us a message. Say what's up. You can go follow her on Facebook and Instagram. What's your Instagram
That's
account?
right. It's Polish Storm.
Polish Storm.
That's right.
I forgot about
Cliche.
it. Yeah, cliche. The Polish Storm. You're done. Be well, don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you
Don't
love
be
them.
dickheads.
Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com. Hey man, what are you doing in the podcast room, Steve?
I'm writing a national anthem. It's going to be at folk festivals for Gunfighter Gun Oil.
Oh.
Let me tell you about Gunfighter Gun Oil. Made in the USA. Gunfighter Gun Oil, 100% synthetic. It's gonna last you, baby. Yeah. Gunfighter Gun Oil is the best I've ever seen. It's gonna make you get everything that you've ever seen. Oh, baby, I love me some Gunfighter Gun Oil. Yeah. Oh, Gunfighter Gun Oil. Gunfighter.
Gonna get my lighter out. I don't have it.
It wasn't even Bob Dylan. It was like a love story.